Tonight on KGW News, a woman spends 20 days in jail for a crime prosecutors now admit she didn't commit.
She's pretty shaken up.
Plus, state of emergency across Oregon with what the governor's now calling a concerning wildfire season. Then,
dysfunction, absolute dysfunction.
Frustration mounts as a much-needed sobering center could be delayed for years. And later,
your motion to dismiss with prejudice is granted.
Tears of relief from actor Alec Baldwin as a judge throws out his criminal case. Thanks for joining us. I'm David Mulco. We begin at 11 with a case of apparent mistaken identity that landed a woman in jail for a crime she didn't commit. One that also raises questions, her lawyer says, about how police connected the dots. Alma McCarty's in the newsroom with a story of case dismissed. Alma?
David, Jada Wise spent 20 days in jail after her arrest on June 22nd. On Thursday, she was released, shaken up after being initially accused of shooting one victim and pistol whipping another.
It's not something anyone would want to experience.
Stuck behind bars, charged with a crime she didn't commit. That's what defense attorney Clay Graham says happened to 20-year-old Jada Wise.
I think it's disappointing because it shows that it's still kind of a dangerous thing to be black and be downtown in Portland. And I don't think I'm misstating that for her.
On June 22nd, just after midnight, officers say 3 people were robbed at gunpoint around Southwest Taylor and 14th Avenue. According to court documents, 2 suspects, a man and a woman, demanded watches and wallets from the victims. But when one of them wouldn't hand them over, she was pistol whipped and her boyfriend shot in the leg. Portland police officers taking the report found and detained Wise, who matched a suspect description and did what's called a show-up. Graham explains.
They just basically say, is this the person? So research shows that that's impermissibly suggestive to do that, and that any kind of, if you want to call it identification or a lineup procedure, one person is just fundamentally unfair.
Court documents show 2 of the victims told officers, yes, Wise had done it. But although Wise admitted she was in the area at the time, she told police the shooter was a different woman. Graham says surveillance video he later obtained confirmed just that.
There's a different person in the video that meets the description for being the female involved in the actual incidents.
After sharing those findings with prosecutors, Graham says all charges were dismissed the next day. Wise walked free Thursday morning.
The district attorney's office did the right thing for the right reason in this case. Instead of this being a case where someone spends time in prison for years and years, like we've had the unfortunate experience of seeing over the last 20 years, we get someone who, on the bright side, only spent 20 days.
PPB detectives say although the indictment was dismissed, the investigation into the robbery and assault continue, and they're still seeking out suspects. David?
Yeah, thank you, Alma. Alma McCarty in the newsroom tonight. Well, now to the latest on Oregon's wildfires, with the governor tonight declaring a state of emergency, saying there is an imminent threat of wildfires from now through the end of September. This essentially helps the state's emergency managers deploy resources more quickly as fires pop up. And right now there are 2 of major concern. They include the Larch Creek fire in Wasco County, which has burned nearly 14,000 acres. It's south of the Dalles and Dufur along Highway 197. Fire crews were busy today trying to establish lines on all sides, and they say they are making progress. A small percentage of the perimeter is now considered contained. They're also working to protect homes in the Tye Valley and the Pine Hollow and Shady Brook areas. The fire chief there telling us he is optimistic with more crews coming in, but added the terrain and shifting winds that made this firefight tough.
There's still a threat. There's still a threat to the community. That's why we're here. That's why they keep bringing in more resources. And there's a threat to ourselves. There's homeowners that are still here. You know, that's on my mind, you know, that I have to worry about myself, my crews, but the residents that are in there.
Well, despite nearly 1,000 homes being in the level 3 go now evacuation zone, no homes have been lost to this fire. Meanwhile, we're keeping an eye on another wildfire in eastern Oregon that shut down a section of Highway 26 for part of the day and is threatening a small town. The Cow Valley Fire has charred more than 80,000 acres in northern Malheur County, about 30 miles west of Ontario. Extra firefighting resources are on the way. That blaze is 0% contained. All right, let's bring in Chief Meteorologist Matt Zafino for a look at the conditions crews are dealing with. Matt?
All right, David, thank you so much. The good news is tonight the winds have really backed off around the Large Creek fire. This is the Dalles, our camera closest to that fire. It's about 20 miles north, and there's still some pretty good wind around the Dalles, but even here it's backed on down below 20 miles an hour. When we look at the hour-by-hour wind gust forecast, these are light winds overnight right on into the morning hours for the Dalles, and they'll be at least that light down on the fire itself because they're not near the Columbia River where the winds are the strongest. So again, we look at the wind observations around the fire here in red, southeast at 3, calm at Duffer, calm at Friend, west at 5 at Maupin. This is great. This is exactly what firefighters need to continue their work to try to contain this fire as much as they can. Now in the afternoon, the wind comes up, and it really gets complex because the terrain in here is super complex. You got all these river valleys coming on out of the Cascades and then feeding down towards the Deschutes. The wind comes through the gorge, then spreads out from north to south, and then it spreads up those valleys. So again, it's a very complex terrain, and that means the weather forecasting there is also quite complex and challenging for the firefighters and all the fire managers on that. Other fires in the region. There's the Large Creek fire here. This is the Shelley fire in Northern California. It's been pumping quite a bit of smoke into Oregon. Another fire near Christmas Valley. This is the another fire here near the Ochoco's producing a lot of smoke. And then the Cow Valley fire there that you talked about just a bit ago. So it is fire season for sure. And with that, we have air quality issues in Wasco and the western parts of Sherman County until Monday. Also, the southern counties have air quality alerts as well because of the smoke that we mentioned, fire weather warnings and heat warnings continuing there. Breezy afternoons, but the winds become light overnight. Humidity will continue to stay low and temperatures high. In fact, they're going to go up a bit this weekend. We'll talk about that in just a bit. David?
Thank you, Matt. See you in a few. In an update tonight, Oregon authorities are now reporting a total of 16 suspected heat-related deaths across the state. The latest locally was a 62-year-old in southwest Portland who died on Thursday. 6 others from Multnomah County also died in the heat wave, along with 3 people in Washington County, 1 each in Clackamas and Lynn counties, and 5 more people in southern Oregon. The medical examiner will determine the official cause of death in all cases. To get you caught up on tonight's other headlines now, a Tigard man is facing assault charges after police say he stabbed his mother several times. This was just before 1 this afternoon at the Meadow Creek Apartments. Officers say the 48-year-old woman told them her son had done it a short time later. The 28-year-old suspect called 911 from a nearby business and then turned himself in. The victim was taken to the hospital and is expected to survive. In Wasco County, a police officer and 2 sheriff's deputies will not be criminally charged for the death of a man who rammed a police car and who police later shot dead. In June, investigators say 68-year-old August Law stole a boom truck and led officers on a chase. He also rammed a police car and then drove the vehicle toward officers. Law was taken to the hospital, but later died. And in Marion County, health officials are reporting 2 additional confirmed measles cases. Both are in unvaccinated children who were diagnosed in the last couple of days. This comes after 3 cases were detected last month in Marion and Clackamas counties. In these new cases, health officials say there are no known public exposures. Nearly 170 measles cases have been reported nationwide this year. Well, to a major traffic alert this weekend and another interstate shutdown in the Portland metro. We're talking about a 5-mile stretch of I-84 both directions between I-5 and I-205 that will close 24 hours from now, Saturday night at 11. That is so crews can clean up garbage and graffiti.
This has been a real problem for the Portland area recently, for all the graffiti, for all the litter that we're seeing around the region in this area. So we're working now to try to get this cleaned up.
The closure is set to last about 13 hours, so until noon on Sunday, not 3 days like last time with I-5. But riders on MAC's red, blue, and green lines, you'll also need to take shuttle buses through the area until around 6 Sunday evening. And we are just a few days away from a 6-week closure that'll impact some traffic in Southwest Portland. Starting Monday, the Southwest Capitol Highway ramp onto Barber Boulevard will be closed. Crews will be repairing the bridge deck. It started to run into issues in 2018 when a hole appeared. Additional wear and tear has sparked the need for a full concrete replacement. Eastbound travelers on Capitol Highway will have to take either Bertha Boulevard or Terwilliger to get onto Barber. Still ahead at 11, a stunning turn of events in Alec Baldwin's involuntary manslaughter trial. What led the judge to suddenly throw the whole case out. And a significant delay for a much-needed sobering center, what the Multnomah County Chair said when we asked her to explain why.